from the 44th District. I want to welcome you to our first teletown hall. We've had some technical difficulties. This is the 45th day of our 60-day session. And I really look forward to sharing with you some of the exciting things that have happened. It's been a fast pace. So I'm looking forward to any of your questions. So with that, we've taken a little time. I'd love to take the first question and we'll do our absolute best. And I thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us for this teletown hall. So let's take the first question.
Thank you all so much for joining us for the Senator Lovick Virtual Town Hall. The first question we'll be asking in our Q&A segment today comes from John in Everett, and he says, Senator Lovick, how can we help improve public safety in Washington State?
Well, John, what we're doing, and we're doing a lot to improve public safety. It's something that I spent, you probably know, almost 4 decades. I was a state trooper for 31 years, and I was a Snohomish County Sheriff for almost 7 years. And I think what we're trying to do is we need to get more of our good peace officers on our streets because they're the people that we want to protect us. They're the ones that have the training, have the credibility to go out into the community and keep us safe in our homes, on our streets, and protect our children in their schools. And one of the things that we've done, and I made this suggestion, we've opened 3 regional academies. We opened one in Pasco, we opened one in Vancouver, and one in Arlington. And they're cranking out police officers, peace officers, faster than agencies can hire them. So that's one of the things we're doing. And then just being good community leaders is going to improve public safety. Just having us all work together, try and do the things that we need to do, and realize first and foremost that we are Washington State. We are not the other Washington.
Thank you so much, Senator. That was a very excellent question, and we really appreciate everyone joining us. Remember, feel free to go to the link below if you'd like to submit a question for Senator Lovick. Senator, the next question comes from Snohomish County, and they ask, which of your bills are you most proud of this year?
Oh my goodness. So I worked on a lot of pieces of legislation. The bill that I'm proud that we worked on, unfortunately, we could not get it over the finish line, is I worked on a bill, the bill number is 5067, and what it would have done was it would have reduced the blood alcohol concentration for drunk driving. We are losing almost 800 people a year on our roads. More than half of them are due to impacted drivers. So I worked hard on this legislation. We didn't get it over the finish line, but I'm proud that we spent the time. And the process down here of passing a bill, you have to go through 3 committees in the Senate, 3 committees in the House, and then get it to the floor for a floor vote. And we just couldn't get it there yet. This is my 4th year working on that, but I'm going to keep trying. Because like I said earlier, we not only want to be safe, we need to feel safe on our roads. And for some reason, if you're driving at all on our roads in the state of Washington, I don't know how you could feel safe with the way people are driving in our state. Thank you for the question.
Thank you so much for that excellent question and that excellent answer, Senator. Our next question is about your sheriff bill. Senator Lovick, why is it important to hold law enforcement leaders to these higher standards?
So what it comes down to is that law enforcement leaders should be held to the same standards that we hold all police officers to. Law enforcement leaders, when you have the ability to detain, arrest, and take a life, you should be held to the highest standards. And what would happen is if a police officer, a sergeant, a lieutenant, a captain, or regular officer is decertified, they are removed from that position. And we should hold our leaders to the same standards. And actually, you know, there's a lot of pushback on this legislation, but we're getting a lot of support for it from the community and from some of the law enforcement leaders. Actually, some of the sheriffs are, I'm not saying they are in total support, but I think we've lowered the temperature by some of the things that we've done in this, because we're just simply saying accountability. We should hold everyone to the same standards. Accountability is about accountability.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you so much for that excellent question. So as many people know, the budget is coming up as you move away from the past bills and working towards crafting a new state budget for this second year of the biennium. we have a question about capital projects and what can we expect in the 44th district when it comes to this new budget?
Well, we didn't get as many capital projects that we had hoped for. We rolled out the capital budget. We're going to vote the budget out, I think Friday. We're going to vote the budget out, and it'll be pretty much unanimous because both Democrats and Republicans work hard. We put a lot of projects in the capital budget. I didn't get all of the things that I wanted. I'm just looking at a list here because there are so many projects on it. We're getting a community project. They wanted to replace I believe the lights at Archbishop Murphy High. We got a little bit less than a little bit more than $250,000 for that. There was an HVAC system in Snohomish. It's at the Blackman Museum, and they wanted a few dollars for that. We were able to get $77,000 $77,000 for the district. I wish it was $77 million. I would put money into a lot of other projects, but there are a lot of projects that we're going to get that's going to benefit the state. And when we look at projects, sometimes you look at things for your district, but you also look at things that are working great for the state. And it's going to be, I'm going to roll out have more information on what we're doing with this, but we're going to get a lot of great things, education, schools. So those are the things that I'm really, really pleased that we're going to get in this particular budget. And one thing I will tell you, my kids were raised down in the Mays Pond area, and 2 years ago, someone came to me and they wanted some dollars for the park down there. It's right next to the swimming pool, and if you're around, I would love to have you go around, drive down, and take a look at the new facility, the new playground area down in the Mays Pond area that we've improved. I think we got a little bit more than $500,000 for that particular project.
Thank you so much, Senator. And we have a follow-up question about specifically education funding, and why is it important that we fund education in Washington State?
Well, so I tell people that I wouldn't be where I am, and none of us would be where we are had it not been for education. I believe in education. I believe in public education. All of my kids went to the various schools, starting at Woodside. They went to Heatherwood, and then they went from there up to, at the time, Cascade High. And so it is vitally important that we fund education, that we pay our teachers adequately, that plus the staff, and make sure we work very hard to reduce class size, because that's what we're all about. I had a great opportunity. I think this past Monday, we had some students come up from, I think it was Marysville, Getchell. And they have a project called Building Bridges. And to see what these youngsters in our public school system, what they are doing, how they're working together. I remember going over talking with them, and I'm thinking to myself when I went over there, they wrote this great resolution that we passed on the floor. And I'm thinking when I walked over there that, my goodness, I'm going over to talk to the future leaders of our country. But you know, when I got there, the first thing that crossed my mind is they are leading us now. They are coming together. They are talking about diversity. They're talking, the questions they asked were things like, when you disagree, why do you have to be disagreeable? They have disagreements, but they can still talk to each other. And I learned so much talking to them. So I will say this, education is about what we're teaching them, what they're teaching us. And that's why I'm so interested in making sure that we adequately fund our public education system.
Thank you so much, Senator, and thanks for that excellent question. The next question comes from Rachel, and she says, what is the process of crafting legislation, and how can people get involved if they feel there's an issue of concern they'd like legislation on?
Great question, Rachel. You know, the process is just like I always tell people, sometimes you just start with a blank slate. I had a person come to me with a piece of legislation. I remember it was the former sheriff of King County. Her name was Sue Rohr, and she wanted a bill drafted because she had been served as sheriff for a long time, and she wanted something drafted to allow police officers to work flexible work schedules. So we met at a restaurant in Bellevue, and I remember when she's talking to me about this, I literally walked over and grabbed the napkin out of the napkin holder and wrote down what she talked about. She gave me some ideas. We talked. I met with people about this. And then 2 years later, the governor was signing this bill to allow peace officers, instead of working, you could pay commensurate with the hours you put in, you're able to work flexible work schedules. That's the way it's done. Reach out to your legislator, reach out to your senator, and tell them ideas that you have, and they will draft it. We have excellent writers down here. We call it the Office of Program Research, I believe, something like that. And we give them the ideas, and they get on the computer and start typing it in. Boom, we end up with legislation. And that's the way it's done. No idea is a bad idea. I've had people come to me with a lot of different things. And I'll just say this to you, to Rachel. I don't come up with a lot of ideas myself. People always come to us with these things. And that's why I'm working on the sheriff's bill. Someone came to me with this idea. When we started working on it, we spent probably 2 years bringing in stakeholders, talking about this, talking about what would work. That's the way legislation is passed. That's the way it's drafted.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Senator. And thanks again, Rachel, for that excellent question. Just a reminder, you're all listening to the Senator Lovick Virtual Town Hall. Feel free to follow the link below if you'd like to ask a question yourself. The next question comes from Andrew, and he says, is there a bill from another senator that you find really important this session?
Let me think, Andrew. I've worked on a lot of bills from a lot of senators. I'm learning a lot about not just like for example, Senator Valdez wrote a great bill to eliminate make sure police officers don't wear masks, and I hadn't thought about that. And we had a spirited debate in the committee. We heard the bill, and the Law and Justice Committee brought the bill to the floor, had a spirited debate on the floor. And I'm really interested in that because, like I told the guys, during my 31 years as a state trooper, I remember going down for a couple of events, a couple of things that took place, and I don't ever remember wearing a mask. I don't ever remember covering my face. And I was at WTO. I walked the streets for 30 solid hours down at WTO, and we didn't wear a mask. And I'm just wondering, why are people having to wear masks in our state now? So I'm interested in that legislation. And then there are quite a few other bills that I'm interested in. I just can't think of any right now, but I'm learning a lot about the Climate Commitment Act and all of those kind of things. So a lot of things that I'll think about it, and I'll get back to him if you'd like.
Thank you so much for that question, and thank you so much for that answer, Senator. The next question is about interim, and do you have any plans looking forward to next session on what you're hoping to work on or stuff that you want to renew your efforts for from this session that may not have gotten over the finish line? Thanks for the good question. So what I want to do is, my background is in public safety. And I want to do, I have my staff researching other states, seeing what they are doing to get more peace officers on our streets, to maybe get more of those community service officers in the community. So I'm going to spend a lot of time traveling around, calling other states to say, what are you doing to get more people qualified, so that, because a lot of officers who started, say, 20, 25 years ago, they're reaching that retirement age. And we're bringing in a new generation. You hear me say this all the time. My goal and my desire is to have good peace officers out in the street, but at the same time, change the culture of policing. And when I say change the culture, I have a sign in my office that says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And sometimes we have these old cultures of not treating people with respect. That doesn't happen a lot, but when it happens, it impacts all of us. So I want to get those really, really, really good officers out there, good recruits out there, so that our Criminal Justice Training Commission can just be packed with people coming out, wanting to serve in the community. So I'm going to spend a lot of time doing those things, and to really highlight and really, really focus on the integrity of the profession. Thank you so much, Senator. The next question on a similar topic comes from Gabe, and he notes that public safety and law enforcement is a big topic right now. You served quite some time in law enforcement. How does that inform your work as a senator? Oh, great question. And all of the questions are great. You know, the way it informs my work is I'm always thinking about what I learned during my years. I was
started in law enforcement back in the 70s. And what we learned as state troopers, we learned to treat everybody that we met with dignity and respect. And so that informs me when I hear and I see things, and you will occasionally hear a story, or you will occasionally see what happened, unfortunately with the George Floyd situation. You will occasionally see what happened in some of the southern states, and growing up in the South where a lot of women and people of color were not treated with respect. And so what it tells me is that it doesn't matter. I remember a person training me once. I got all upset because of what I observed a guy do, a person do, observed him commit a violation. And I remember my training officer said, they are not violating your law, they are violating the laws of the state. And you have to not personalize it. So that's what has helped me a lot, is don't personalize this stuff. These are the laws of the state. You're not going to get everybody. You're not going to stop everybody. It doesn't matter what we do. We could have 10,000 officers out there. It's the quality of the work that you do. It's how they are deployed. So that's how it impacts my life and my decisions.
Thanks so much, Senator. And thank you for that excellent question, Gabe. The next question is specifically about the regional training academies. So we've heard a little bit about it tonight, but how exactly will that help the police staffing shortage?
Yeah, a great question. If it was Gabe. So what we did was, when I thought of this idea, I remember when I went through the academy, I left home and I went down to Shelton, and I was there for 3 straight weeks. And then I would come home on weekends. I had a young son at the time, and it was just brutal. Driving all the way down to Shelton from Lake City and being away from home. So what we decided to do with these regional academies is try and attract people right from the neighborhoods, right from those communities, and they go home every night, just like you're in college, or just like you're going to a junior college. And if you ever see the facility in Pasco, they're drawing officers, recruits from all around that Pasco, Richland, Kennewick area. They train and they go home every night. And then we did the same thing down in Vancouver when we opened a campus down there. And then we have the Arlington campus. People come from all over the area, but they go home every night. And these are, to a certain degree, they're non-traditional candidates. They're people, we're attracting a lot of women, a lot of people of color, and it's really, really showing that diversity matters in the profession. And it's working very, very well. And that's the great benefit of these regional training academies. And I'm actually looking at another one here in Lacey. I took a tour of the new Lacey Police Department, and I'm a person who worked very, very hard to get things, but I'm liking what I see down there. And I'm thinking an academy down in Vancouver, one here in Lacey. We have the huge academy, Criminal Justice Training Commission in Burien, and then one in Arlington. And it's working very, very well. Because what we want is these community officers that come from the community, go back and work those communities, serve those communities that they were raised in.
Thank you so much, Senator, and thank you for that question. Next question from Jen in Snohomish County asks about flooding. Recently, there was some very severe flooding in the district. Do you know what the state is doing to help that, or what your experience working on that issue was?
Well, what I will tell you is this. I saw, just looking at the capital budget, I saw that there's $30 million, I believe, I think in transportation program. I think we put it in the transportation budget to try and help with some of the flooding. And we're also reaching out, let me just do a double check here, to provide financial assistance in that area. And there will be more. But I will say this, let me say this about the flooding. I was in Snohomish every single day. I mean, I happened to be the county executive when we had the Oso mudslide, and it meant a lot to me. Disasters happen. It's how we respond to them. And I think our county responded very, very well. But I was in Snohomish every single day during the last flood as we experienced the flooding. And I will tell you, I don't know if people saw it, but I always tell people you have to see it to believe it. And when you see it, you just don't believe it. But this is that's a resilient city. We have a resilient county and a resilient state. And I think people responded very, very well. And we're going to do our absolute best. I work very, very closely with Senator Schessler from the 9th District, because they had forest fires that they had to deal with. And he came out and said that we worked with them. Our military worked very, very well. And we're going to work do our absolute best to make sure that these communities continue to recover from this natural disaster.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure that's really great to hear. Our next question is sort of on a similar topic. It's a good segue from Gary. They want to know a little bit about the transportation budget. Obviously, you sit on the transportation committee, Is there much we can expect from that?
Just for Snohomish County, I'm not getting as much as I want, but we haven't finalized the budget. We have some things in the budget. I know I saw where someone in Snohomish wanted it's not in the House portion. They want $650,000 for the Terrace Avenue roadway sidewalk improvement, and we have $350,000 for the Bigfoot overpass. I drove over that with the staff, and then I drove under it. And it's like when you're driving under, you look up and you see that they had repaired it once, and then the stuff's falling apart. So we got some money in the budget. It's in both House and Senate budget. And one of the things that I have been interested in, because we've had a lot of unfortunate collisions where we have wrong way drivers. And so I talked the chair, and being the vice chair of the committee, I made sure that we got some money in the budget to make sure we look at some of these areas where people are going the wrong way on the freeway, having head-on collisions, and getting money in the budget for that. So those are just a few things. But the reason I'm not going to say a lot about the final budget is because we have to kind of bring the two together, the House budget and the Senate budget. And once we kind of bring those together and it'll be finalized, I'll be able to put out more information about it. I'm excited about some of the things that are there, but we have to reconcile some of the things that's in the House budget and in the Senate budget. So it's a lot of work, and I'll be working on it tonight and tomorrow and every single day until we reconcile those.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you everyone for your questions so far. Moving right along, this question comes from Stephen, and he's wondering who's inspired you as a legislator? Are there people that you look towards to emulate when working as a state senator?
Oh my goodness. Great. Is it Stephen? Did you say his name is Stephen? So let me just tell you, if you look over my shoulder, you probably see my grandmother. And, we were very, very poor growing up in Louisiana. And she raised me from the day I was born until I joined the military. But the guy who inspires me the most was Georgia Congressman John Lewis. And I had the great honor of meeting Georgia Congressman John Lewis. If you read about John Lewis, you remember that he was the one who stood up and he talked about getting in good trouble, doing the things that he did. And meeting him was life-changing for me, because he was a man that went through more things than I could have imagined going through, but he had the ability to forgive. And so he's a guy who inspires me. And there are times when I'm having a down day, I know I say this and people are probably going to chuckle. Like my grandmother, we lost her about 14 years ago, but I don't care where I am and what I'm doing. And I can always close my eyes for just a few seconds. And she's just always there telling me to keep dreaming and to dream bigger than she was ever allowed to dream. So it's my grandmother and Congressman John Lewis.
Thank you so much, Senator. I think that's a really phenomenal question, and we really appreciate hearing your answer. The next question comes from Joan, and she is a little concerned about your bill allowing only people authorized to work in the United States to serve as police officers. Is that something we should be worried about, or is there a good reason that these people should be allowed to protect and serve our communities?
Yeah, I think it's Joan. Joan is a friend of ours, and she walks a lot. If it's the same Joan from Mill Creek, walks a lot, very, very active. I see her everywhere, and if she has a question, I want to answer it. I don't know the bill that she's thinking about. There's 5068, I think there's one bill that allows people who are legally authorized to be in our country to work as police officers, prosecutors, and firefighters. And that's only fair. That expands the pool. We're going to do the appropriate background check, and they should be allowed to work in those professions. As a matter of fact, we moved the bill out of the committee that it was in. I think it was in the Community Safety Committee. We moved it out of that committee, and it'll be on the floor for a vote. But Joan, this is one bill that we should all get behind and be proud of, because these wonderful people, I know some of them. I got a call from one just today. They are legally in our country. They are legally authorized, and we need them in the law enforcement profession. We need them as firefighters, and the prosecutor's office are telling us that they need them in the prosecutor's office. So this is good legislation. But thank you, Joan. It's always great to see you. Joan's a good family friend, and I'm so happy with her enthusiasm in the city. She's a good swimmer too, by the way.
Thank you so much, Senator. And if it's okay, we actually have a follow-up and separate question from Joan as well. We discussed it a little bit tonight, but she is wondering, what are we doing about ICE agents in our communities? Could you speak more to that specifically?
So, great question, Joan. And I have not had to deal with them, and we have some legislation addressing ICE agents, but we have a great Attorney General, Nick Brown, and we're going to hold them accountable. You will not see, at least I hope you will not see, you will most likely not see in our state what we were and are unfortunately seeing in other states, like Minnesota. We have, I got to think of the bill number. I think the bill number is 5855, and that bill, sponsored by Senator Valdez, is going to ban masks, and we're going to make sure that we hold them accountable, because that's the reason I'm working so hard to get peace officers, because I know these peace officers, they go through 720 hours of training, over 4.5 months of training. And those are the people that the community has consistently told us that they want protecting them in their school, in their homes, on our streets, and keeping our kids safe in their schools.
Thanks so much, Senator. And thanks again, Joan, for those excellent questions. Our next question comes from Christian, who says, I was sad to see that your bill to expand aviation support for law enforcement didn't proceed. What will be done about this? Is there any plan to expand that aviation support in other ways?
We worked it very, very hard. I worked very closely with Sheriff Susie Johnson to get this aviation support unit, because it's something we need. So what I was able to do is I talked with the chair of the Ways and Means, and we were able to put, not a lot of money, but we were able to put $100,000 in the budget to help our Snohomish Aviation Support Unit. If you probably know this, there are 4 counties, King, Chelan County, Spokane County, and Snohomish County. And they actually fly more missions than some of the largest Coast Guard bases in our country. And so we're going to keep working on this. I couldn't get it over the finish line this year on a short session. It was quite the lift, but bad pun about, but it was quite the thing to work on. We're going to get it done next year. I feel confident about it.
Thanks so much, Senator, and thanks for that excellent question. Moving right along, and a reminder, you are listening to the Senator Lovick Virtual Town Hall. Feel free to visit the link below if you'd like to ask a question of your own. The next question comes from Mark in Snohomish, who says, I'm concerned with the explosion of data centers in Washington and the strain on the electric grid. What steps is the legislature taking, and do you plan to support SB 6171? And that's the data center bill from Senator Shoemake.
SB 6171, Senator Shoemake is probably one of my dearest friends out there. She and I've actually commuted north with her. And if she brings something forward, and she's a very, very talented lady from the Bellingham area, if she brings something forward concerning data centers, I'm not sure what status the bill is in now. I think let me just check here. We have
the House version is moving.
The House version is moving. So yes, I will be supporting that. But a great question. We have something like, we passed, I think, 140 bills, and I can't remember all of them. But that is one, yes, that I will be working with her on. And by the way, her office is just 2 over from my office here, and we talk all the time.
Thanks so much, Senator. And thank you, Mark, so much for that excellent question. Our next question from Rebecca is about your actually activity in the community. People love to see you out and around the district. Is there a favorite event locally that you like going to, that you like seeing people at?
Well, Rebecca, you got me on that one. I just like being out in the community. My wife and I enjoy walking. I like going down to the town center. And probably my favorite place is, and I'm not trying to advertise, but it's the gym right there, the big gym, LA Fitness. I just go there a lot, and I shop at all of the stores. I shop locally. And so I just like going everywhere. And, I always tell people that I try not to meet any strangers. Everybody is someone that I know. I always believe that they might not know me, but I want to do my best, absolute best, to get to know them. So if you see me somewhere, don't hesitate to say hi. Even if I have the earbud in and I'm listening to a little bit of James Brown and Michael Jackson, I can pop it out real fast and talk with you. So I like to go to a lot of places. We just have a great community, a great county. Love living here.
Thanks so much, Senator, and thanks for that excellent question. The next question comes from Jonathan in Everett, and he says, would you support efforts to make housing more affordable?
Absolutely. We had a briefing today. We briefed a lot of the bills that we're going to be passed. We're going to start passing them tomorrow, and we will do everything. We need someone told me the other day, we need 1.1 million new homes in our state in the next 20 years. And everything we can do, we're doing a lot of things that will hopefully make housing more affordable, because it's really, really tough, particularly for young people, when you're dealing with housing in communities. So I will support any effort that I can. And let me just look, I just want to take just a second to look at my sheet to see some of the things that we're working on with housing. One that a couple of bills that she should take a look at is, if you could pull it up on your computer, is Senate Bill 5496, Senate Bill 6026. Those are bills that we're moving through the process to help make housing more affordable.
Thanks so much, and thanks for that really important question. I know a lot of people are worried about similar issues and eager to hear what exactly the Senate is doing about it. The next question from Jason is there an issue you haven't worked on yet, but you're thinking about doing a bill on, or that you'd like to write a bill on?
Wow. There's always an issue that I haven't worked on. I can't think of anything right off the bat. I guess the thing that I want to do is, I really like the legislation that we worked on. It's a Senate Concurrent Resolution 8406, and it's about just simply establishing. It's called the Committee on Civic Health. Just doing our absolute best to make sure that our civic health is healthy. Lieutenant Governor Denny Heck brought this to me, and we had a great hearing on it the other day. And I just think we need to look at our civic health. When I see these students come down from the various high schools, last year we had kids down from Jackson High School, and to sit and talk to them. And my sense is that they expect us to be more civil toward each other. They expect us to show respect to each other. So I'm going to work more on those kind of things. And sometimes bills that you work on will help you accomplish that.
Thanks so much, Senator, and thanks for that question. It looks like we have a question in chat from Mark. There was a bill to support renters wanting to install window air conditioning. Do you support something like that? Have you heard about that yet?
Mark, I have not. I remember, because we talk about so many things, and let me just pick my brain for just a second here. I don't remember. Let me just think for just a second. Window air conditioning. I don't remember, but Mark, let me get back to you after I kind of rattle my brain just a little bit.
Thanks so much, Senator. And as everyone knows, you can go onto the legislature website and check up any bills you're interested on. that will tell you when the bill's been introduced, where it will go.
Now that I think of it, let me go back to Mark. I do believe now that we voted for that particular piece of legislation. We voted it on the Senate floor, and it's probably, I'm thinking it's over in the House being looked at now.
Thanks, Senator, so much. I'm sure he really appreciates that follow-up. Our next question is from Randy, and he notes that you were a House representative before you were a senator. Is there much difference between those two jobs? Do you like one better than the other?
I probably won't go back to the House. So I spent 9 years in the House, and I've been in the Senate exactly 9 years. There are 98 House members, 49 senators. I always tell people, and this is no disrespect for the House of Representatives, because I was there for 9 years. I actually was the Speaker of the House for a few months, and I was the Speaker pro tem for many, many years. There's just a lot, and again, no disrespect for my colleagues over there. There's just a lot less drama in the Senate. 49 of us in my caucus. There are 30 of us in our caucus, and it's we sit around in a room at a table, at a big round table. When you have a question, when you're with 30 people, you raise your hand, they will eventually get to you. Versus the House, 57 of us when I was there, 56. They take your name down and they will eventually get around to you. But it's just a little less drama over here. And I'm not saying one institution is more respectful than the other. We just don't have the drama that, and again, I was there and they said the same thing about us, when I was in the House. So it's just, I'll put it this way. It's the same thing, just different. How's that?
I think that's perfect. Thank you so much, Senator, and thank you for that excellent question. We actually have a follow-up question now to an issue we were talking about earlier from David. What is civic health?
Civic health is just being, I hate to say just being civil, just learning what our founding fathers wanted of us, how we should treat each other. I say be respectful toward each other, be kind to each other, be disagreeable. Disagree, but don't be disagreeable, not calling names, not being enemies. I have a few people that I work with over here. I will walk up to them and say, I need your support on this particular piece of legislation. They will say yes or no. If they say no, I'm not angry with them. If I say no, and I'm not going to help them on a piece of legislation, we're not angry with each other. We just have to be civil. That's what civic health is all about. Just simply being the best example so that people who see us can see that we're not enemies. We're not enemies of the people. And one other thing I always like to tell people, we are informed about the issues. When we disagree, we're not disagreeable. And I know that term is overused, but I think it works out. Not calling names. I've had members that we have disagreed on things, but never. We will disagree, and we will literally go downstairs and have lunch together. I'll give them a ride home if they need it. That's what's being civil is all about, I believe.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, David. I'm sure we can all agree that that's really important these days, more than maybe at any other time. The next question is kind of lighthearted from Gordon. If we can expect your fried turkey to make any appearance anytime soon.
Oh, you know what? So I cook a lot of turkeys. I haven't cooked as many, but you will know when I'm out. If you drive through my neighborhood, and I think Joan has probably driven through a walk through, you will smell the turkeys cooking around Thanksgiving. So yeah. And I was on a radio talk show this morning, and someone asked me, they said, I've never had fried turkey. They said, how does it taste? And I said, like chicken. So yeah, thanks for the lighthearted question. And I just want to tell everybody, there's no better position in this world than to serve and to represent the people of the 44th District. I absolutely love doing this. It's something that the people, whether we agree or disagree, I still absolutely love serving everybody in our district. And if you call me, I might not always call you back. If we have a town hall meeting, we're going to be respectful. At least I will be. And every town hall meeting that I've gone to, people have been respectful. And that's what I love about serving. And I've talked with my colleagues in other districts. That's what the state of Washington is all about. And I love it.
Thanks so much, Senator. That's a really excellent thing to hear, I'm sure. We do have also a follow-up question about the law enforcement leaders bill from Larry. And are you concerned that the voters may be worried about these new standards on their law enforcement leaders?
Not at all. So the voters will still vote for their sheriff. What we have is if you look at states like Texas, Tennessee, Georgia, we have not updated our standards in almost 200 years. So if you can look at a state like Texas, Georgia, they basically said that we need, you should be at least 25 years old. You should have some law enforcement experience. You should not have had a felony or a gross misdemeanor. Those are standards that we should have those are the same standards that we have for every person serving in the law enforcement profession. Do a background check, get the training, go through the training. I had to do those things, and minimum standards, and that's what we should be looking at. And I always say that no other case where a person is allowed to detain you, arrest, and take a life would we not hold them to these high standards. So why not hold our law enforcement leaders to those standards? And it's not impacting the voters' ability to elect their sheriff. I was elected twice, but I met all of the standards. I went to the training. I went out of state for training. I went to the conferences. I made sure that I stayed up on my training, and that's all we're asking our law enforcement leaders to do. And we are not in any way trying to impact the voters' ability to elect their sheriff.
Thanks so much, Senator, and thank you for that question. I know a lot of people have been interested in that topic tonight. Our next question is about affordability from Dennis in Mill Creek. Is there any effort to reduce spending within the Senate?
Well, so I don't work daily on the operating budget. We have some talented people working on that. Senator June Robinson has looked at a lot of things. We've just had some tough caseload forecasts. We've had a lot of things that that have been pretty much out of our control. But there are efforts to reduce spending, and not everybody's going to be pleased with what we're trying to do. But we are looking at, I had people in the office today. We've had, last year we had to close some facilities down. We had to close some mental health facilities. Those things just crushed a lot of us. But those are ways that we're looking at reducing spending and a lot of other things. And I remember when I was first elected to the Mill Creek City Council, I remember talking with a guy by the name of Bacon. His last name was Bacon. And I said, well, what does a dollar here and a dollar there? And he said, budgets are built a nickel and a dime at a time. And that's the way we look at it down here. It's not a nickel and a dime. It's thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. So we try and look at things that we can reduce. But at the same time, we have to have education. We have to have health care. We have to have, hospitals, and we have to have those things. So when we always talk, we can't do an all cut budget, which some people would like to do. We have to do some cuts and then do some revenue increases.
Thanks, Senator. And thank you, Dennis, for that question. We really appreciate it. The next question comes from Thomas. He recently read an article about the Covenant Homeownership Program. Is that something you'd be interested in expanding or working on in the future?
So I worked on it in, I believe, 2023. I worked on it in 2023. It was brought to me by the former Speaker of the House, Frank Chop. And basically what it did, it made sure that people who had lived in areas where there had been covenant restrictions were able to get some loans and to right a wrong is basically what it did. We think it's working very, very well. I think more than, I'm not sure what the number is, but I've actually read across a few people who have benefited from it. We think a couple of hundred people have benefited from the Covenant Home Ownership Program. And it's something that I feel very, very good about. And by the way, it was a bipartisan piece of legislation. One gentleman by the name of Muzal voted for it here in the Senate, which made it bipartisan. And he's a Republican from the 10th district. And we feel very, very good about what we have accomplished with that particular program.
Thanks, Senator, and thank you so much for that question. We have time for a few more, so if anyone has questions, please follow the link included in the invitation where you can submit your question for the senator at this virtual town hall. Our next question comes from Luann, who is concerned about the lack of bipartisanship. How can we make legislation more bipartisan in the Senate?
Well, so I'll start by saying that sometimes it might look that way and it might feel like it's not bipartisan, but about 95% of the bills that the governor ends up signing are bipartisan bills. I talk about the covenant home ownership. I worked on the bill for DUI. It didn't pass, but it left the House in a bipartisan way. Two Republicans voted for it, a gentleman by the name of Wilson and a gentleman by the name of McCune. So it was bipartisan, but 95% of the bills that the governor ends up signing are bipartisan bills. And we are working on it all the time. Members will come to me, I will go to them. I look at Senator Muzal from up in the 10th district. He has legislation, and I'm on just about every piece of legislation that he has sponsored. And it's a collaborative effort that we are working very, very hard to be bipartisan. But it's a great question, and I think that people should just challenge us. One guy down here, and I really like him. He chaired a committee. He will not take a bill in his committee unless there's a Republican and a Democrat that signed on to the bill. That's his approach. I don't know that I'm sure about that approach, but he will not hear bills in his name is Mike Chapman. And he will not hear a bill in his committee. In a way you want to look at it, it works for him, but that's his approach to make sure it's bipartisan. And what it forces you to do, it makes you walk over and grab that member and explain the bill that you are working on, explain the policy, explain the amendment, and make sure that you get that support by sitting down and talking with them about it.
Thanks so much, Senator. And we have time for one or two more questions. I do want to read this one because we've received quite a few questions about it. It's a little long, but I'll read it now from Amy. Thank you so much. The Washington State PTA is reporting to parents that both Senate and House operating budgets are cutting K-12 education fundings. Why are we seeing education cuts?
So we will be, and that's a great question. I had the PTA, the Snohomish, the Pilchuck Uniserve, and I had people in from Snohomish in my office yesterday. I don't know all of the details. I've not been briefed. I'm going to be briefed, totally briefed tomorrow on everything about the budget. And I absolutely agree. I'm going to do everything I can to ask to restore some of those cuts. Again, that's why when people ask, why do we have cuts? We have there are only so many dollars to spend. And I am not liking what I'm seeing with these cuts because, kindergarten, pre-K, and all those things mean so much to those youngsters. It means so much when I see these youngsters out there. I had a kid in my office just the other day. We decided to, he was in, I think he was a pre-K. And when I visit the schools, I like knowing that we are doing and have done everything we can to avoid some of these cuts. And unfortunately, sometimes we have to, we don't need to balance, we have to kind of balance a lot of the cuts that we make. And they're very, very hard. They're very difficult.
Thanks.
And I know that wasn't the best answer, but we're going to get more information in the next couple of days as we talk about the budget and as we vote on it. I think we're voting on it Friday.
Thanks, Senator, and thank you, Amy, so much for that question. Our last question comes from Mark. We've talked about it a little bit tonight, but maybe we can focus specifically on his concern that there isn't enough focus on public safety and that our communities are getting less safe. What are we doing about that?
I don't know. I can't agree with Mark 100%. I think we're focused a lot on public safety. I look at what I was told was that violent crime, when we see something bad, and a horrible thing that happened in Pierce County yesterday where 4 people were killed, and then the suspect was eventually killed. But I was told that violent crime was down 25%, property crime was down 30%, and auto theft is down 25%. So we're focusing on it. It's just that we need to get more peace officers on our streets. We need to do more things in our schools. We need to do more things in our communities. I know when I go in stores, retail theft, unfortunately, is a major problem. I'm going to be working. I'm glad that was another question. I'm going to be working on some retail theft issues so that we can help our industry, because I was told that something like, I can't remember, $3 billion of items were stolen in from our retail centers. $3 billion. That's almost $600 million in tax dollars that we're losing, plus what's happening there. So we're focusing on it more. And I want Mark to know we're going to keep doing more. If you have any ideas of things that we could do, please reach out and let me know.
Thanks so much, Senator. And thank you for that excellent question. There's been so many great questions tonight, and we really appreciate you all attending Senator Lovick's virtual town hall for this Q&A session. I want to leave the Senator a little time to close us out, but I really want to stress this has been so phenomenal, and we really, really appreciate your attendance here. So, Senator, any closing thoughts before we end for the night?
My closing thoughts are peace, patience, and kindness to all of you. This has been a kind evening. I'm so pleased that you took the time. I'd love to do it again before the session ends. We have 15 days left, and I'm not counting, but we have 15 days left in this session. Would love to have you come on again, and please don't hesitate to reach out. If you see me in the neighborhood, in the community, anywhere, stop me. I'm going to talk to you. We're never in too big of a hurry. I always say, you might not know me, but I'm going to do my absolute best to get to know you. Thank you. Be safe out there. And let's have peace, patience, and kindness. This is a kind community, and let's keep it that way.
Thank you so much, Senator. And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. That ends the Senator Lovick Virtual Town Hall. Thank you, and have a good evening. Bye.